I don't want to really get into it too much because it's super deep. But when I got to the end of the podcast, I was like, I don't make a video on this. Who is? Because the people that do the same work that I do, Reconnective Healing, you know what he's talking about. You know this is real, this dual body activation.
Yeah, it's a hot day. I'm hanging in the sunshine. You should hit me with the splash gun.
I was listening to a podcast this weekend. Brian Scott, I don't know if you're familiar with this channel. I love this channel. It's called The Reality Revolution. I've been watching this guy for like, I don't know, 6 years, maybe more. I've been really enjoying these quote channelings. I don't know if you're familiar with the Law of One, the raw material channeled in 81 through 84. I came across it in the 90s. As much as I wanted to believe it, like there was still a part of me was like, this is a little too out there for me. I don't know about this. And then, my life turned into a science fiction movie and I rediscovered it and I absolutely love it. There are some times when I'm like, man, I wish they would have asked more questions. So that's where the quote channeling comes in. I'm watching this podcast. It's on entering the fourth density. And it's really cool. It's talking about, hey, what the changes we're going to see, how long this is going to take. Talks a lot about dual body activation. Those on the planet who have like a third density and a fourth density activation. I don't want to really get into it too much because it's super deep. But when I got to the end of the podcast, he said something, and I was like, man, I should make a video on this. Like, if I don't make a video on this, who is? Because the people that do the same work that I do, Reconnective Healing, you know what he's talking about. This dual body activation. I will try to not jump in and comment too much, but that's really challenging for me. So we'll just see how it goes.
One of the key things that we learn in the Law of One material is the dual activated body. There are a number of people on the earth, and that number is growing. I don't think I'm dual activated, maybe, but who knows how to identify that? And if people do know how to identify dual activated, I'd like to know. It's possible.
Now, when the Law of One first came out, it said there were very few people that have this dual body activation. I mean, I really never really wanted to talk about it, but when I went through that personal reconnection, that process in 2012, that's what happened. It was clearly activated. One of the reasons I say that this process, the personal reconnection, activated this in me. I remember the first time I asked the lady, what is this? Like, what are you going to do? And she said, you're laying in a fifth dimensional axitonial system over your third density energy body. She was basically going to upgrade my energy system. I was like, whatever. I just knew that I felt these frequencies. I knew they were real and I knew that they were affecting my life. So I was like, hey man, let's just do this. Let's see what happens. Well, in retrospect, 12 years ago, I believe that that's what this process is doing. It's waking up this multidimensional aspect of ourselves, and we are able to feel connected again to life. Once this fourth density aspect of yourself is turned on, you will absolutely see more light and love and forgiveness and caring in your life.
There may be changes taking place to allow more of us to become dual activated bodies that were not dual activated before. So it means that it's possible, as we talk about in the episode on activating DNA in the new earth, that there's an activation of DNA, that we have dormant DNA that is this secondary body that we all have. I think there's more, but they gave a very limited number in the original Law of One material.
DNA. You're probably thinking, man, what is this guy who majored in philosophy and art in college? What does he know about DNA? The more the rabbit holes I went down in my search for truth, DNA is everything. We like I'll tell you what I do know. The mainstream genetic scientists, they will tell you that 97% of our DNA is junk. Dude, we were turned off. You can think of it like, say, you have 7 energy centers in your body, okay, the chakra systems. Well, it was like the top 5 were unplugged, and we completely forgot who we are. We were left with survival and reproduction. And now, in this time that has been prophesized, we are starting to wake up. Their dormant DNA is starting to come back online. And as this happens, you start to see more love. You start to feel this connection with everything. Life becomes easier. Now, the work that I do, Reconnective Healing, and this process, the personal reconnection, what does it have to do with DNA? Well, when this frequency that includes energy, light, and information first came onto the planet, it first came through a dude named Eric Pearl, Dr. Eric Pearl. He was a chiropractor. And when this was first activated in him, it seemed to be spreading. Just being his presence would activate something in that person. They would go home, they would start feeling these frequencies, and healings would start happening around them.
For it may seem that you are small points of light in a vast firmament of darkness. Yet we will say to you that this light is of such a nature that it may be passed on. It may extend its reach. It may move from person to person, and it does so, generally speaking, in a manner that is hardly observed.
Now, there was a 3-month period where he had 50 of his patients. They lost consciousness and they all channeled the same 6 phrases. 2 of those phrases are, what you're doing is reconnecting strands, and what you're doing is reconnecting strings. Now, there is no doubt that this dual activation is possible, that it's happening, that there are processes that can speed that up. Like Brian was saying there, that when the law of one was first channeled, they were talking about very few. And I find it very interesting now that Quo, when asked about the dual body activation, he's saying that a third of the population now has this dual body activation. And of course, the kids do. The kids were born wired and ready for this higher frequency. It's just us older people that it's a little bit more challenging for. I don't know the rhyme or reason why certain people have this ability, but clearly this was activated in me. And for all you Reconnective Healing practitioners out there, you know what I'm talking about. This is real, and the effects that it's having on your clients. So back to this.
So what they're saying is, if you're just yellow ray, then that's fine. When you die, you're going to go through this process, and they describe it in multiple times now. They have a process where you're encountering the light. It's just a simple test. You're brought into more and more intense love and light. And much like if you were in a boiling pot of water, it's just going to get brighter and brighter and more intense and more intense. And then you're going to naturally just move away to stop wherever the light is too intense for you.
I think this is beautiful. If you're born into a really religious upbringing, there's heaven and hell. If you don't accept Christ as your savior, you're going to hell. It's pretty cut and dry. But with this, we're talking about making this shift from the 3rd density to the 4th density. So for the past 75,000 years, we've been going through these 3 25,000-year cycles that add up to this grand cycle. And the Earth, she's already shifted to this 4th density, which vibrates higher. There is a higher frequency on the planet, which means the energy is rising. and you can see it in people everywhere. It's bringing out their darkest fears. Like that's what's happening. But with other people, there's a transition happening in their life where they are feeling so much love. They see beauty everywhere in the world, from plants, animals, people, kind acts. It's growing. And once this momentum starts, once you start seeing the love that is everywhere, um, it doesn't stop. It just keeps growing.
So if those have opened up their heart now, they're able to bring in light, they're able to send out light, they're able to activate their light. I believe that what happens is that we can have a dual activated body situation for a much larger group on the planet. I do believe that we can do this in a number of ways. I think that what happens then, what they're saying is that we will see a transition where third density will slowly fall away. The period of time that they're talking about is between 100 and 700 years for this process to go about. And it indicates from this and other channelings that there is a healing process that goes on in this, in that there are pent-up energies from angers and wars and all this stuff that we have on the planet. It doesn't just go away. Their energy never dies, right? So a lot of what's happening is that the earth is accepting this deeply negative energy, and in some places it becomes such a large amount that we're going to see some volcanoes and earthquakes. We've already seen that, but we may see more in the future, and that's a sign that the earth is going through this healing process, which I find very fascinating. It's really interesting. Drambala Melchizedek, in his movie where he activates the Christ grid, is healing like some of the local stuff that's happening in the country where he's working at. And I have met some spiritual leaders that really felt a profound connection with certain communities and had helped them release past transgressions and things in the past. And this releasing allowed for certain energy. So it is my theory that what is happening is very comparable to what happens on the individual level. You're caught up in your past. All these things start to bog you down. They have these pent-up energies. For some people, it turns into cancers or sickness until we release these energies, right? And so it's also, if we're talking about the new earth, not just the new human, right? The new earth has something similar. There are these pent-up energies that need to be released. So another aspect of this transition from third to fourth density, which is repeatedly discussed and is super important to understand, is the veil between the subconscious and conscious mind. This is a big game changer, right? So what does it mean if you constantly had access to your subconscious? It may be a little disconcerting. Your thought process will be different. You will be thinking on a different level. You'll have access to information. Now, that is why in the third density, it's so fascinating to talk about the power of the subconscious mind, as Joseph Murphy does, because we realize there's this powerful part of us that makes our hearts beat, that makes us breathe, that is amazing, and this sort of cosmic intelligence, but we don't really have access to it. A lot of what we're doing in the spiritual process as we're moving from third to fourth density is we're coming to grips with our subconscious. We're forming a relationship with it. We're getting to know it better. And when the new earth occurs, it's lifted, the veil is lifted. And in the veil, we realize the subconscious is this one mind that is more than just us. It's a shared group social memory complex, which is a track record of all the things that ever happened on the earth, including your thoughts and feelings. And we will then have an access to not just our own past and history, but more than that, we'll have access to everything within our subconscious collectively.
What's the difference between third density and fourth density? Fourth density means you can think of it like the amount of light that you can jam into one square. Okay, just think of it this way. Well, in the fourth density, the light is more dense. Does that make any sense?
The period of time that they're talking about is between 100 and 700 years for this process to go about. And it indicates from this and other channelings that there is a healing process that goes on in this, in that there are pent up energies from angers and wars and all this stuff that we have on the planet. It doesn't just go away. Their energy never dies, right? So a lot of what's happening is that the earth is accepting this deeply negative energy. And in some places, it becomes such a large amount that we're going to see some volcanoes and earthquakes. We've already seen that, but we may see more in the future. And that's a sign that the earth is going through this healing process, which I find very fascinating. It's really interesting. Drumbalum.
So that's what's happening. We are the third cycle, third density is complete. We're entering the fourth, and the goal is to enter this next cycle, enter this fourth density in these bodies, to be able to feel and live in this new light, this love, and this understanding of this new cycle of life. Now, for most people, they probably won't graduate, which means they'll just have to repeat this third cycle. I guarantee you, most of us, the large majority of us, dude, this isn't our first time trying to get through this third density. Okay. We've probably done it many times. And I just feel that, well, actually, I don't feel, I know that there are certain beings on this planet that have already graduated the third density, the fourth density, the fifth density. And we made the decision to come back to help our fellow brothers and sisters because, dude, this is a really challenging school. And it's not easy. And sometimes you can be programmed by the time you're 7 to have so much fear that you don't even really get the opportunity to do what we came here to do. And that is to remember who we are and to make this shift into the higher density.
This is a most special time, for the choice that is made within this illusion is the foundation choice for each entity making it that will allow and propel the entity further along the path of seeking to serve the Creator in either fashion, positively or negatively.
This is a big deal.
This 75,000 year cycle may seem like a great span of time to you who live a mere 2 score, 3 score, 4 score, or so forth. And then you are no longer a part of this illusion until, once again, you choose to incarnate back into it. However, when you compare the 75,000 years with the length of time as you measure it of succeeding densities,
listen to this.
The next 30 million, the following 50 million, the following 75 million years, your density is but an eye blink in time.
Isn't that crazy? So the next densities are 30 million, 50 million. And do you know what? The length of time that we spent in the first density and the second density, dude, like billions. So it's like billion, in first density, we'll say it's just having the consciousness of like being a mineral. You know what I mean? Like a rock. You know what I mean? Like long periods of time, just being conscious that you are what you are. And then the second density is more like the plants and the animals and how they start having this awareness that, they're not rock, but the idea that it's like billions and then this density, this experience is only 75,000 years. And then it goes to like 30 million and 50 million. Dude, this is like, is that enough time?
It is but the briefest of moments in which to consider the choice that must be made. This choice is that which has been attempted by many of the population upon this planet throughout their incarnational histories upon other third density planets.
And I will say, man, I think if you don't graduate, go on to the fourth density, and you do have to repeat the third density, dude, I don't think that third density experience is going to be as challenging as this one's been. This is special. Like, what's going on here? Oh, super challenging. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that so many higher density beings came back to help, because it's almost like the cards are stacked against you that you're not going to make it. So, that could be the reason that so many of us are back to help.
They were not successful in making this choice, but indeed the need to incarnate upon this earth plane in order to once again attempt this grand adventure, this grand choice making, to set the foundation for all future work that they shall do in their consciousness. Thus, we communicate with this planet at this time and have for a number of your years, and in fact, a number of your decades at this point, to alert those who are conscious of this process that indeed this is occurring.
Have you noticed how many channels came in at the very end of the 80s and the beginning of 90s? It's almost like we weren't ready for this type of information before. But now, dude, it's crunch time, and it's like something opened up, and we are able to access a higher frequency of information about who we are and why we're here. And if it resonates with you, cool. And another thing about this information, this law of one, and these quote channelings, dude, if you don't resonate with this, say you say like 5 things, you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. But then you come across something that absolutely doesn't resonate, like any of it, moving from the third density to the fourth density, or the 51, like whatever. Dude, just let that go. Like, don't even pay attention to it. Only pay attention to what resonates with you. And I would say that about anything. I mean, you're not looking for this packaged belief system to finally discover so you can be who you've always meant to be. No, dude, we're piecing this together. We're completely unique, and we're all going to have a unique perspective on life. So pick and choose. This isn't a take one, take all. This is like, hey, this resonates, this doesn't, this resonates, this doesn't. So don't think that this is like a package deal. And the information that I'm talking about with the DNA and this reconnective healing, dude, there's no belief system. It's not like you can have any belief. Like, this is incorporated into your belief system. Okay, so there's no dogma in any of this.
This shall occur. And this is most important to those upon this planet at this time, for the reasons that we have just stated. Gary then asks, there is indeed, and I forgot to mention that it is an honor to be able to ask these questions, quote. So thank you. We recently visited Asheville, North Carolina, a place where we felt that we were glimpsing the embryonic beginnings of fourth density.
I'm going to skip this, but he's basically saying that they were in Asheville, North Carolina, and the vibe that they were feeling there, the energy, just like it really felt like there was this group of like-minded people that were creating a new way to live. Not a new way to live like they're doing completely different things, but just like a new experience in living. And how do you graduate helping and being friendly? And you'd have to be 51%. That's really the fourth, helping out others, and caring about another thing. The reason I'm making this is because helping out your fellow man of my life. I'm like 51%, dude. That's wallowing in this fourth. And then I realized that the 51% is for your entire. I'm just like, if I make videos on this, then your entire life. So it's not like when this is real. Like, oh yeah, shift is happening. 75% of my life and service to others, to help others. I mean, I don't have to think back too far. Maybe 15, 20 years. So where I was a victim.
If you're one of those
And I
people
didn't
that is
see
just now
the
waking
love
up
everywhere.
and realizing
I
that
didn't.
you were
Like
kind of like
I,
a
I,
piece of
I
shit to
thought that
others,
people were
you know,
taking
in
advantage
your
of me. I
life.
thought
You
I'd
were a
been lied
bully
to
or
my whole
just
life. I
critical
thought I was
or
being
super
controlled.
judgmental or
And,
whatever.
from that perspective,
Dude,
I,
it's time to get
I
shit
was,
together now.
that was my truth. But I was only seeing a sliver. I was only seeing my life from one picture frame. And with this process that I went through, the picture frame was taken away. And slowly I was able to see more. And it completely changed my life. So back to this. Let me skip through something.
You mentioned that there are upon the planet at this time beacons of light. And we should tell you, my friends, there are few beacons of light greater than the one you presently participate in. This is one of the sources of hope for a great many of the helpers that have been attempting to aid for what you would consider long years, stretching even into eons of attempted aid in our belief and in our desire and our hope that there may be brought forth upon this planet a fourth density experience that is able to enrich the sense of what it means to be a servant of the Creator. For my brothers and sisters in light, it is the case that every new birth into a higher density, the entire universe rings with joy.
Dude, what we're pulling off here with Earth, such a dense, dark energy that we've been in, to make this shift back to the fourth density, to be called back to the light, dude, this is a big deal. This is huge. And I have no doubt that beings throughout the universe are on the edge of their seat saying, I can't fucking believe they're doing it. They're doing it. Pat yourself on the back, dude. We're crushing it.
You are quite right to note that the transition to fourth density is aided by groups such as your own and the one you mentioned in Asheville, where genuine efforts are being made to harmonize and to facilitate healing in those places where it is seen to be needed. We would suggest to you that this planetary experience has been somewhat vexed, leaving the need for considerable healing. And so, in addition to the gathering together of the resolve culminating in the choice to serve either the self or others, that an additional process of binding of the wounds is at this point well underway. It is an occupation of many groups, such as your own, to reach out the hand to those in need and to offer, in those subtle ways that may be available, the promise of a better way of living, a better.
Dude, it's the subtle ways. That's so important. It's the subtle things you do. It's the smile. It's the small thing. Like yesterday I went to the store and I parked and there was this lady and she had finished unloading her shopping cart and she was going to take it all the way back up to the front. And I jumped out of my car. I'm like, I got you. And I just grabbed it. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. Dude, that sounds like nothing. Dude, it's not nothing. Those little moments, they have a rippling effect and they end up changing lives. And in our case, worlds.
But it is also true that each here present will subsequently sally forth into the world carrying in ways perhaps not even consciously known the effects of this intensification of the light that will
More
spread, my
dense.
friends.
It's more dense. You can feel it. Like you can feel it.
Surely as the dawn spreads over the surface of the land, it will spread as a gift of the new dawning of awareness that will begin the process of the ushering in of the fourth density age upon this planet.
Let's go back to how the energy is getting more intense and the vibration is rising higher. For those of you who are not familiar with the Schumann resonance, the Earth has a very specific frequency. It vibrates at a very specific frequency. And I could be wrong here, but I think it's 7.82. It was discovered by a dude named Schumann, obviously, because it's called the Schumann resonance. This frequency, this vibration of the planet didn't change at all. It was 7.82 consistently for decades and decades since it was discovered. Now, dude, that the Earth's frequency will shoot to like, I don't know, 150, 120, 260. Like it's, I don't even know if it goes back to 7.82. Like I could be totally wrong about that, but clearly there is something happening on the vibration of the planet. It's rising. I mean, if you want science, dude, go check it out. It's obvious.
Question, as Ra describes it, there is apparently a quantum shift whereby third density definitely ends and fourth density definitely begins. All fourth density bodies in the new environment inhabiting a qualitatively discrete.
Now, see, I keep interrupting. I do know this for a fact. Well, I do feel like I know this. This shift into the fourth density, I know a lot of people that are into this. They feel like there is going to be like a solar flash, and everyone is going to like make this shift into the fourth density. I hope they're right, dude. I'm totally up for anything like that. Like, sign me up. I'm ready. But I don't think that that's going to happen. Um, I think it can happen to you individually, instantly, like that. But for the whole world, raw talks are the information is basically that this shift into the fourth density on the planet as a whole will take 100 to 700 years, which kind of makes sense. I mean, like it really does. I'm not opposed to a solar flash or something like that activating everybody, but let's it says the 100-year point started in right before World War II. So I don't know when World War II is. I'm guessing it's like 1942 or something like that. But 68, dude, we're getting close. We're getting close to the 100-year. Like in 20 years, we could be living on a world where all the people like have this fourth density consciousness of love and understanding. Dude, that's not far-fetched. 20 years? And 20 years are going to go like that. So I don't know, man. I'm even though I feel like I spend a majority of my life in this higher frequency, this higher density, this higher understanding. Um, Man, the idea that those on the planet 20 years from now, all of us would, oh my God, that is the kind of stuff that excites me.
Different environment. When the time and the conditions are right, is this discrete boundary crossed in a single global moment? After which time the third density sphere is inactive for some time while the early fourth density beings get their bearings.
I love that. Give them time to get their bearings, because dude, what we come from, what we've been living in, to where we're headed is like having a friggin' horse and wagon versus teleportation. Literally, it's so astronomically different that maybe we'll need a little bit of time to like get our bearings.
This is a query which is not easily answered with simple yeses and nos, for there is much that is anomalistic about your particular planet and its transition into the fourth density. The quantum leap that those of Ra were speaking of is that which this planet itself has achieved, for the planetary entity is a fourth density entity.
So the planet's already done its thing. Okay. It's waiting on us to catch up. So we don't have to worry about the planet. The planet will be fine. It's us that needs to raise our frequency and match the planet.
The Individuals and social complexes upon it, however, are in some cases upon a level of third and fourth density combination, but mostly the third, as you would surmise from news of the day, shall we say. This planetary sphere, then, has the need to adjust the vibratory complexes of fourth density with the remnants of the third density population's degradation, shall we describe it. There's been much of what you...
So as long as there's these, I don't want to say evils, short-sighted. As long as there's these beings of consciousness that still have this insatiable need to control and for power and to manipulate, we can't quite fully, as a whole, be in the fourth density. I mean, we can individually, okay, but we're talking about the plane as a whole. So basically, they're kind of saying here, you kind of got to wait till they all transition. All those lower frequencies, greed, selfish, power, control freaks, they kind of got to go. So that's kind of interesting.
Call war, bellicose activity, and the slaughtering of millions and millions of the population of this planet.
Can you believe that? Dude, we live on a planet where we have slaughtered, killed, murdered millions upon millions upon millions of each other. Dude, like that, I can't even, that is unreal. And so, energy never dies. And so we are left on this planet with the energy remnants of all these wars, of all this hatred. And, I think they're getting ready to talk about how, this has to be healed. And dude, I think we really see this and how it sticks around and really, in a way, controls the minds of those who live there. Because, let's talk about Israel and the Gaza Strip in the Mideast. Dude, this shit has been going on forever. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of the last places to still be playing this out. It's, and, ironically, it is, maybe this is it, man. Maybe we're seeing the final throes. I don't know.
This vibration of anger, of separation, has embedded itself within the crust of the planet, so that there is the need for a physical release of this vibration of alienation, of separation, of war, so that the planet itself might proceed in a harmonious manner as the home for the fourth density population, which shall inhabit it. Thus, the rupturing of various portions of the planetary surface has been occurring for a number of your years. These are...
I remember a long time ago, who was that crazy popular Billy? No, I was going to say Billy Crystal, Billy Graham. I remember he made some comments when I was young, and he was talking about how earthquakes and volcanoes were God's reaction to the evil that was transpiring. I think he also mentioned other things, but I remember just thinking, dude, this guy is a lunatic. Like, what's he talking about? You know what I mean? Like, now, that is so blatantly obvious to me that these changes in the weather, these earthquakes, this is the planet adjusting to this. It's almost like trying to shed the negative energy remnants, yeah, maybe, that are left on the planet. It's like it's got to shake loose. And I mean, you'd have to be brain dead not to realize that the weather on this planet is changing dramatically. And they're also talking about how, I find it interesting, we're talking about global warming and things like that. And earlier he mentioned, as the frequency rises, doesn't this mean that it's going to create more heat? And I just thought of that. I thought that because we're definitely creating more heat. I don't think it's from us, polluting. I don't think it's what we think it is. I think it's a cycle that we go through, and it was going to start heating up no matter what. But you know, obviously, we are screwing up the planet by pollution, and so we'll get into that.
Are the inconveniences which those of Ross spoke about, as far as the discrete movement of the consciousness complexes of the peoples of your planet. There is at this time, and has been for a number of years, the birthing into incarnation of those entities that have both the third and fourth density bodies activated,
This is interesting.
so that there is indeed a new breed of entity upon the planetary surface at this time.
It's almost like evolution. He's basically saying that, forever it's just been these third density, you know, bodies that we've had. But then there started to be like this mix between the third that had the dual body that have the third density and the fourth density. You can think of it like, you know, this body plays cassettes and MP3s, whereas the third density just plays the cassettes, dude. It wouldn't know what to do with an MP3 file. Okay. And how, as these dual body entities are on the planet and they start to have sex, that their kids are dual activated. So you see what I mean? It's almost like this evolution of our bodies to match this new frequency. I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting.
This number is increasing daily. These entities have much more ability to affect the consciousness of this planet at this time, and the consciousness of those about them, for they have the, shall we say, need to aid in the harvest, which is a basic need that is at the foundation of the reason for their incarnating here.
I resonate with this so much because I guess even before this, I had this need to educate people, but unfortunately at the time I was down so many conspiracy theories, and all I was educating them about was how they're being controlled and manipulated and programmed since from birth. But once I got reconnected, once my, we'll say, dual body activation, uh, then the need to spread love and wisdom and understanding became off the charts. I wanted everybody to feel the way I feel, what was happening to me. And so that inner calling, it amped up to the point to, this is what I do. I think this is my greatest service, to help my fellow brothers and sisters awaken faster and to possibly make this shift.
It is a great honor and privilege to be allowed this early in incarnation.
I like that. It's an honor to be here so early, because it's the ones that came early when we're still in the third density, shifting to the fourth density. Dude, that's challenging. So you should pat yourself on the back to have the courage to come so early that you're going to wake up knowing that nobody else is. Dude, that's big time.
Thus, these entities, as they continue to incarnate upon the planet, will provide the body complexes through their own mating processes for other entities of even higher vibration to incarnate. So that this is a process which in your time will seem to take more time than a discrete moment in the blink of an eye. There will be a number of years which are indeterminate at this time due to the difficulty of your peoples in making discrete choices.
Do you get that? How fast we shift as a whole into the fourth density is based on our choices, our daily choices, our daily interactions with people. Dude, we're in charge of this. We're in control of this. I'm sorry. I just realized I have a session I have to get ready for. I'm sorry that I'm cutting this short, but if you enjoyed me making these little comments over one of these Brian Scott podcasts or any spiritual podcast, let me know. I kind of enjoy them. I think I could do them all the time. I mean, I listen to these podcasts frequently, so I could just watch them with you and make comments. Okay, man. I love you guys. I got to get ready for a session. Peace.
Surfing on a wave of good feelings. Well, it's just another Friday in paradise. So bring your A game, cause you know this party won't stop. We could never run out of time, sipping strawberry lime. You know I wanna share it with you.